talking on Friday the 15th of October with Stefano di Pieri from Stefano di Pieri Wines. Welcome, Stefano.
Pleasure. Of course.
On this day, I just want to ask you, last night when we went to a function last night, I introduced you as the maestro of Mildura. How does that make you feel?
Well, I'm not pompous, as you know. So I'm just another bloke doing his job. I love being involved in the wine industry. I am particularly interested in wines that express something about the area they come from. Mine is a rather warm area with irrigated vineyards. So I tend to pick fairly early to maintain a fair balance of acid and low alcohol, because I think that those two features make wine which is suitable for food. So being of Italian background, I'm always interested in munching on something, so I can think of antipasto with rosé or some pasta with seafood pasta with some white wine and so on. But I'm interested because of my background, my Italian background, in varieties other than the ones we love. There is the Chardonnay, the Shiraz and Cabernet and so on. So in the range, I have attempted to introduce flavors that are perhaps a little bit new and varieties with funny names that may at times provoke some puzzlement or question marks. Things like Arneis, which is a variety from the northwest of Italy, a very small appellation, but a distinctive wine, very refreshing, zesty, easy to drink in Australian conditions. I have gone for Sangiovese Rosé rather than conventional red wine, because I think that our climate again suits rosé al fresco style, but not a dumbed down one. So again, nice balance of acid, lovely color, not too much sweetness at all. There is a lot of rosé around, which are very pleasant indeed, especially when chilled. They tend to be a little bit sweet. I went the other way, thinking that when I want a slice of prosciutto and buffalo mozzarella and bruschetta with olive oil and tomatoes, I don't want sweetness, I want savory characters. This year, 2010, we are releasing for the first time a wine called Primitivo, or Primitive, which in our English language is known as Zinfandel. In America particularly, it's a big variety, but it's a huge variety in the south of Italy. Primitivo means, in fact, if you think about it, that it ripens earlier. That's primitive, you know. It means it's amongst the first. Its characteristic in its spiritual home in southern Italy is to ripen rather early, and it can make very gutsy wine. The version we have here comes from Barossa this time. It's a medium body wine, but full of lovely, interesting, savory characters that you would want to accompany with roast pork, pork sausages, you know, even your standard barbecue or lamb. I always think somehow of Primitivo and lamb, pretty much as I think Shiraz lamb, you know, that combo. And of course I've got a Moscato, which has been very popular over the years at Cellarmasters, and Moscato is a sweet, low alcohol, extremely low alcohol variety or style, if you like. Let's talk about a style. In Italy, of course, Moscato is a variety, but here it can be made with different grapes, as long as you aim for very low alcohol, around 6 or 7%, bit of bubble, and very refreshing and very good with dessert, particularly fruit salads and things like that. Yes, I've jumped to the end, if you like, of the range, although there's a lot in between. But I should have mentioned the Pinot Grigio, which we have both in still versions and in a bubbly, frizzante, fizzy version. Of course, Pinot Grigio is a red variety, and so when we leave the wine on, it's got red skin, so when we leave the wine on the skins for a little bit, it picks up that tinge of pink that makes it pinky and quite attractive and quite festive, you know, quite good for a hot summer day, again, as an aperitif, pre-dinner drink, or really after the movies. Once again, the alcohol is not overbearing, so you can indulge a little bit more without feeling guilty. The frizzante style means that you don't have persistent and constant bubbles just sort of gushing up the glass and then falling. This is a more subtle bubble, and some people may think that the wine is flat, but it's deliberately constructed in that fashion. So that's just a few examples of the things we have been doing. Of course, we've got a Barbera, we've got all sorts of other bits and pieces. But the sentiment here is to produce food-friendly wines of low alcohol. There are a lot of big, gutsy wines out there, and of course they have their place, and we love them. But I think I want to cater for the other end of the spectrum.
I just want to talk for a second about regionality. Mildura, suited to these varieties. Why is it suited to these varieties?
Well, I think that almost anywhere can be suited to these varieties. You can plant it anywhere you like. But in Mildura we got water and we got sunshine. And so we are good at producing, controlling the production of these varieties. And it seems to us that in that rather warm climate, they respond rather well. You would think that Arneis, being from the northwest of Italy, would want cold weather. But it's called Arneis precisely because it's temperamental and it appears to want more sunshine during the ripening period. So, well, who has got sunshine? Well, Australia, Mildura. So I approach these wines and winemaking without too much prejudice. Let's see what nature, our weather, and our philosophy combined can throw at us. I mean, who would have thought that an area like Mildura or Griffith or the Riverland of South Australia would produce so much Chardonnay, which is really a Burgundian variety. Now, it may not be Chardonnay of a really spectacular quality, but it's good, everyday, well-made, honest Chardonnay. Now, if you were thinking, I'm in Burgundy, which is cold and miserable, and I'm in Mildura, which is hot and dry, and Chardonnay, well, it's not a proposition, but somehow it is. So it's a matter of conditions and getting the right fit.
I often get asked, is Steph ever going to produce a Super Tuscan? Are you going to produce a Super Tuscan?
Well, to produce a Super Tuscan, we require a really good Sangiovese, and the search for that is still out there. You need a good Sangiovese, and maybe you need some Cabernet or other varieties to come to the aid of a Super Tuscan. But the basic wine there is a Sangiovese, a Brunello style Sangiovese Grosso, and maybe Sangiovese with other bits and pieces added to it, like a Ciliegiolo, I'm not sure. But Sangiovese has been lagging in Australia for some reason, for some years, and we don't seem to be able to be quite successful at it, as we have been with other varieties. We've pinned down Pinot Gris or Pinot Grigio, we've pinned down things like Nebbiolo, which is really, really difficult. We've got some really fantastic examples, like my Primitivo, I'm proud to say, which perform rather well, but the Sangiovese grape has shown itself to be quite elusive, quite ephemeral, quite difficult to pin down. When we do, we'll do it.
That's what we're waiting for. Stefano, thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart.